Namaskar, all the
Namaskar.
dignitaries, everybody, namaskar.
Namaskar, good afternoon. So, we are starting our program on our past presidents, where we pay our homage to those great ladies who had a major role in shaping the organization All India Women's Conference. And this is such a historic organization, still alive and kicking and doing so well. All thanks to the great foundation that they had laid. I welcome you all to this program. Today, we are going to talk about two very great personalities in the field of reform and education. They are our 22nd president, Srimati Hennah Sen, and the 23rd president, Srimati Renuka Ray. This was the time when India had achieved independence, and we were negotiating our republic, and this was such an important formative period for the whole country. And it is interesting to see that AWC was doing a very important job of in all the fields, and more so in education. And that's where Srimati Hennah Sen's contribution comes in. She was the founder of one of the first colleges for women in the country, and a leading light in the field of education. And similarly, Srimati Renuka Ray was a very important figure in the Constituent Assembly. And later on, she did a lot of reforms and things like that in the field of women's rights. So here we are with the program, and we have very distinguished personalities as speakers. So we are ready to hear them. Before we start the program, I would request our President, Srimati Sheila Kakreji, to give her presidential address and to tell you all, this is all her, she has conceived the program and she has formulated the idea. And I'm from the library, and I thank her so much because we can use our resources so well as a research activity, and all our branch members, thanks to them, they have come out with superb presentations. So here we are, Sheila ji, for your presidential address.
Namaskar and thank you, Yutika ji. Namaskar to all my dear sisters and the guests who have joined in today's webinar, taking us on the virtual journey with All India Women's Conference in and around the silver jubilee years of her existence, along with yet another two significant personalities, Srimati Hennah Sen in the year 1951 and Padma Bhushan Renuka Ray in the year 1952. Srimati Hennah Sen honored the presidential chair along with the vice presidents Saroja Amma K.C. Reddy, Chief Minister's Bungalow, Bangalore, Srimati Jayashree Raiji, Darabsha Lane, Mumbai 26, Srimati Tarabai Patwardhan, Narayanpet, Pune, Srimati Raksha Sharan, Madras, Srimati Prabha Banerjee, Bailey Road, Allahabad, Srimati Amruta Ramasubramaniam, Madurai. And the General Secretary was Srimati Kameshwar Amma Kappuswamy, Royalpeta, Madras. Secretaries were Fulrenu Guha, Kolkata, Sarla Bhargav, Delhi, Kusum Shah, Gujarat. And honorary treasurer was Mehraben Zawala from Mumbai. Srimati Hennah Sen was one of the founder members of Lady Irwin College in Delhi between 1932 and 1947 and was also the directress. On behalf of AIWC, I welcome Dr. Renu Malaviya, Anupa Sidhu, Professor Anuradha Chenoy. She is unwell, but she has sent her video clipping, and Dr. Smita Palit to give us insight into the life and work of Srimati Hennah Sen. Padma Bhushan Renuka Ray was our 23rd president in the year 1952. In her team, she had vice presidents Mrs. Lakshmi Menon from Patna, Mithan Lam from Bombay, Kameshwaramma Kutuswamy from Mysore, Her Highness So Indirabai Holkar from Indore, Srimati Raksha Sharan from Madras, Srimati Kitty Shiva Rao, New Delhi. Honorary Secretary General was Indira Maidev from Pune. Honorary treasurer in her team was Mehraben Zabwala, again from Bombay. On behalf of all AIWC family, I welcome our speakers, Dr. Malvika Sarkar, Dr. Mamta Chaudhary, and Indrani Sen Gupta, MIC Art and Culture, to enlighten us on the life and work of our 23rd President, Srimati Renuka Ray. Now, in 1952, the silver jubilee year of AIWC, the Pune session was presided over by Srimati Renuka Ray. It was during her time that the central office was established in Delhi. And now, without taking much time, I hand over to Yutika ji to take this session forward. Thank you all.
Thank you, Sheila ji. So nice of you to have you told us about what all was the whole team like when they were there, and it's interesting to know more. Now let's proceed with the program. We are going to talk about Srimati Hennah Sen now, our 22nd president, and our first speaker is Professor Renu Malviya. She is in the Department of Education in Lady Evan College. And she's going to talk about Lady Evan College under Mrs. Hennah Sen as the first directress. Professor Renu Malviya is the secretary of Aiwc and is a professor in the University of Delhi in Lady Evan College with experience, a long experience, almost more than, I think, 35 years experience of teaching and research and extension. And she has been associated with projects by CARE, Save the Children, UNFPA, ILO, UGC, University of Delhi, University of Edinburgh, and several universities in the UK. Besides having 20 books and more than this number of research publications, she has contributed chapters and presented papers in national and international fora. She's an RCI certified special educator, a CBSE certified master trainer, is advisor to the Commissioner of Disability and mental health counseling team in the University of Delhi and of the Equal Opportunity Cell in the University of Delhi. She is also a trainer of trainees with expertise in intergenerational bonding, life skill, pedagogy, mental health, and gender capacity building. And I would like to remark that I've also done some bit under you, and it was a pleasure doing my bit with you. So we welcome Professor Renu Malviya on Srimati Hennah Sen, the first directress of Lady Evan College.
Thank you so much. It is indeed a pleasure and it gives me a lot of happiness and pride to be invited to speak about Hennah Sen, the first directress of Lady Evan College, the college because of which we are what we are today. Greetings and thanks to Sheila Katre, President AIWC, Associate Professor Chandraprabha Pandey, MIC, Event Management and Head Office, AIWC, Supriya Balerao, AIWC, Hyderabad, and Smita Paleg, SCM, Kolkata, for making this event possible. I was fortunate to get access to the documentation from Aiwc, Lady Evan College, and from the family of Hennah Sen. I present here only what I was able to get documentary proof for. Yet, do visit Lady Evan College, and we will tell you many oral stories which have been passed down the generations about Hennah Sen's time. As I have been asked to focus upon Lady Evan College, under Mrs. Hennah Sen as the first directress, I will try to only focus upon that. And that I found was a very difficult task because Hennah Sen had so much, she's done so much of work. As I was going through the papers, I found, and here we have this, is my slide sharing? Is the slide visible?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Right.
it is.
Okay. So as I was going through her papers, I found this indicating that she was a graduate of art and also law. She also had a diploma in and a medal for merit in child welfare. And this I found from the Jewish Women's Archive, that when Hannah sang with her well-known husband, a well-known radiologist of his time, she earned, and they were in England, and that's when she earned her diploma in teacher education from the University of London. And that's interesting to note, if you see the underline there, that Sarojini Naidu asserted that Mrs. Hannah Sen come back to India and help establish Lady Irwin College for Women as its first directress. These are some pictures I know that the other speaker is going to be talking about, but I really want this to highlight some of these here. Lady Irwin College has always had multifaceted directors, and the ball was set rolling by our first director, Hannah Sen. And just presenting a tiny glimpse to indicate that Hannah Sen was at national and international levels. This would be taken up by another speaker. What I want to highlight here is that if the directress has such vast experiences, engagements, and resulting understanding, it would but be natural that it would filter into the curriculum and expected directions of development of the students of Lady. A glimpse at Hannah Sen's family. And that's Hannah Sen. In the middle is Dr. S. Sen, her husband, Shanta, a only child. At the back is Shanta's husband. And on the side, we have Professor Kamal Chinoy and Professor Anuradha Chinoy. And thanks to them for giving us a lot of documentation inside of what Hannah Sen was. So we were able to get a lot of material from there. Kamal and Dilip Chinoy, the two grandsons in the other one. Lady Irwin College was developed, commenced on with 11 students on date 11th, month November 11th, again at 11 Barakhamba Road in the year 1932. All documents, and like I said, I'm going to only talk about things which have been documented. So it's right there. And this is the college, I mean, the place which was rented, 11 Barakhamba Road, and we had girls from 8 different states. I'm sure it must have been a marathon task to get so many people from so many different states at that point of time. This is the present administrative block of Lady Irwin College. And as I go through, I'll show you this building and how it relates to. You would be, it's amazing when I went through the documents to see that even the fauna and the flora, these are the gardens with the pictures which you have just taken presently, but these were also established. There is right here written here that the ground where the hedges are to be put, etc., the grounds were prepared, and we still have hedges at the same places. We have trees at the same place. And this is the initial flag of Lady Irwin College. The director's bungalow, which was also built during the era of Hannah Sen. And in the later years, Hannah Sen lived with her family there. I'm sorry that I have not been able to get a picture of our well-known rose garden, which is so beautiful when it blooms through the year. But I have some roses here to indicate that. And there are, again, for which you need to come to Lady Irwin College to hear about the oral stories. The director at that time, the building that we have here, was not there. So from the director's bungalow, you could see across the Sikandra Road. And of course, we have the flyover, the metro flyover now, train running there. So the Sikandra Road view has changed forever. And we don't, at Lady Irwin College, we are not very happy about it, but it is how it is. This is Hannah Sen's cottage. It was built much later. Hannah Sen did not live in this cottage. Hannah Sen after Hannah Sen resigned, and our next director, Tarabai, had joined in, and that's when this was built. Hannah Sen had donated for the construction of this building, and so it was named Hennah Sen's Cottage. Little Shanta, the only child of Hennah Sen and Dr. Satish Sen, was blessed with the representatives of 5 different faiths. And the parents gave her the freedom to grow and decide what faith she wanted to follow. And why do I say this? Please view these slides and then I'll speak. Lady Irwin College, philosophy of inclusivity, social empowerment, local to global. And these are from the abstracts of the annual day function. And it says here that whatever you have learned, Hennah Sen says in her speeches, that take it to the wider world. And we can read that as global world for just now. Those essential qualities that have helped you build a happy home, you will take it to the larger, bigger home, the earth as a bigger home. And you will find when I read this, I realize that even I as a student, as a faculty, this ethos, this philosophy of Lady Irwin College still continues. Our directors still talk about how different the latest philosophies can be used to empower us, the girls further. You will find here useful role for themselves, implementation of the 5-year plan. And that's what Hennah said. We have the education plans there, cottage industry, community project, health schemes, rural development. Today also our students are at national, international levels. As Dr. Sidhu will be talking further about how the entire curriculum has moved forward, but the baseline has remained the same. We were told, she said, go and find new avenues for yourselves. Not only stick to the particular avenues that are there. Here we have Hennah Sen was a as for a lady, we find that all our directors have been multifaceted. And if you look here, we have that Hennah Sen was at the National Conference for Social Work at New York. She was the Honorary Secretary of Child Welfare Division at UN, and she was associated with so many other things. And this was what she was doing at a particular visit. So if we find that our directors are doing this, it would automatically also mean that it gets somehow percolated into the entire curriculum of Lady Irwin College. The governing body of Lady Irwin College, the directress was the Honorary Secretary and member elected by AIWC and Aiwc. To date, the nomination, although the director still remains the Honorary Secretary of the governing body, and the elected members are vetted by are sent to Delhi University for acceptance. I'll just come to the initial faculty recruitment, confirmations, and placing. The first teacher who came in, and all documents here, is Miss Ferengleaf, and she joined in January 13, 1933. So that means Hennah Sen was managing everything from 32 till January 33. And the students had come in, she was the directress, she was trying to get the land on which Lady Irwin College is today, looking after the fauna and flora. I mean, there was marathon work that she was doing at that point of time. And you would see that here, the teachers had the princely pay fixation of rupees 250, which was a large amount and which was at par with whatever one was getting as a lecturer at that point of time. And when we look at trend, many of our teachers, the oral history says, came from England. I haven't found any document so far, but they were given amount for traveling was rupees 500. So obviously it couldn't be within the country. It would have been from beyond the country. Then the initial advertisements that were given were for a lady graduate. And they were, at that time, we had 26 para Khambarur as a release. The fixations of salary happened. And you will see again, when you look at what are the fixations of the salaries, they are at par with the best at that point of time. It was very interesting that Hennah Sen was responsible for, was given the mandate to recruit, to do the confidential report and the confirmation of the teachers. But one didn't rely, I mean, nobody was there to do her confirmation. So that was a very interesting thing. She had to go and say, how can I do my own confirmation as a teacher, as a director here? Anyway, it was sorted out. And in the beginning, it was that if we had male teachers, then the consent of the parents was required. But as soon as we joined Delhi University, this part was removed. We have a number of male faculties always. The curriculum, initially, Hennah Sen and the executive committee had worked on 2 diplomas that we were planning to have. Diploma course in home science, which was started in 1932. The other was supposed to be the psychological research course. But it is interesting to note that by the time the diploma in home science took up so much of space, and it was going forward in leaps and bounds, we never had time to even think of the other one. So that is how this is the initial syllabi. Lady Dorothy Irwin had a home science background, and with Hennah Sen and Lady Bora, this is the different subjects that I have been able to churn out from the different reports and documents. If you would look, they lead into the different areas that we still have. The names have changed. If you look here, scientific guidance of Western cooking, scientific guidance of Indian cooking. Needlework, which today, if you look at it, is probably reached a level where we have a whole department of fabric and apparel sciences. And we have so many other departments, which Dr. Sidhu's, the video made by Dr. Sidhu, you'll be able to see into the details of that there. And as I said, only the best libraries for Lady Avon College. Lady Avon College did not have a library at that point of time. So Hennah Sen went and took permission from the Secretariat Library. And that is where the girls and the faculty went to collect whatever information they wanted to. A glimpse at Lady Avon College, the era of the directress. This is what college life was at that point of time. And if you see in the first slide here, where the girls are, that is our annual day, and the building at the back, which I showed in the beginning, is the building here. We still have the annual day guard of honor there. The Founders Day is still at the same place. The tree which I've circled there is still there. It is as dry as it was then, and this was amazing. I'd never thought of that to be the same tree. And lost Hennah Sen in 1945. Land acquisition, and we have 16.5 acres of land, and there was an active role of Hennah Sen for this. She worked on this, and ultimately funds were collected, and we bought this. Yes, ma'am. You want me to stop? I have to. A committee of management, Hennah Sen as honorary secretary. She evolved the rules for the entire college, which were vetted, and there is teamwork. Always, even now we find at Lady Avon College, the director has a marathon task of not being the last veto. She doesn't use her veto powers so often, and she gets all of us to get involved. And I can see that happening at that point of time, and they were vetted through different directions. Stand alone to date, the status remains the same. The director is working on external examination, board of examiners, holding examination, curriculum. She's the lead for curriculum development. And way back, it was decided that the way the college works and how the hostel or the mess at that point of time, his work has to be divided. The people have to be, and it still continues because they have, and it's very logical the way it was done. Other colleges started wanting to affiliate to Lady Irwin College. It was decided that no affiliation. Lady Irwin College is a template for over 200 colleges and schools teaching home science. However, there is no branch of Lady Irwin College to date. And that started from Hennah's sense time that we will be standalone and example in ourselves. Interesting is that our logo, which is Vidya Hi Seva, was earlier Seva Hi Vidya, and Rajkumari Amrit Kaur was in touch with Mahatma Gandhi through letters and correspondence, and he said, make it Vidya Hi Seva, knowledge is service, and that is so we got our logo from Mahatma Gandhi. I think I've already spoken about this. The executive committee is the Aiwc president is the convener, and the director is the honorary committee of management. Hennah Sen was the honorary secretary, and to date, the management committee of management became management committee, and now it's the governing body. The director is the honorary secretary. Negotiations with Delhi University started. We didn't want to join it because we were doing so well. And if you look at our documentations, the girls were all over the place, not in India, and at amazing jobs that they were doing. So we were not very keen on joining Delhi University. And look at the buildings. We have about 10 large blocks of buildings at Lady Irwin College, roughly I was counting, out of which Willingdon Cottage, Hilla Rustumi Hall, the front block, the director's bungalow were all built during Hennah Sen's time. Hennah Sen's cottage was also built because of Hennah Sen. And we had 5 Sikandra, which is off the road, which was with us for a very long time. Again, Hennah Sen was the one who got it here. And when we wanted to become part of, when Delhi University said, please join us, Hennah Sen's views were taken. And at that point, we were not so keen. So we joined Delhi University in 1950. To date, and we were very clear when we went to Delhi University that Lady Irwin College's character will not be changed, and we will be not allowed, and that Delhi University had probably agreed because we are still the same. And Hennah Sen brought in the next director. She came in as a faculty till 1947. Hennah Sen was the directress, then it was called directress, and Mrs. Tarabai took over after that. And I'll just go to the last slide, the directors of Lady Irwin College, starting from Hennah Sen to our present director, Dr. Anupa Sidhu. And I hand over the mic to Dr. Anupa Sidhu, and she'll be telling about where we have reached now. Dr. Anupa Sidhu.
Thank you, Renuji. I would like to introduce Dr. Anupa Sidhu to our audience. She's the director, Lady Irwin College and Head Department of Home Science, University of Delhi, PhD from AIIMS, and National Head of the Capacity Building Project of the MOHFW. And presently, in 2022, she's the chairperson, National Center for Excellence and Advanced Research on Diets and chairperson, National Center of Women Collectives, led social action at Lady Irwin College, and she got the college a NAC rating of A+ and NIRF ranking of 12 and, among other colleges of India, and has got several MOUs for the college. She has earned several awards like the Mahila Shiromani Swarn Padak, Asia's Brand Award 2016 for Education and Women Leadership Award. And as we can see, she is the dynamic current president, director of Lady Irwin College. Directress, do we call her? No, now you have the term director. Over to you, Anupa ji.
Thank you, Yutika ji, for that introduction. And thanks once again, Supriya ji, for inviting me. Thanks, Chandraprabha, for coordinating. And thank you, Sheila ji, for, as a president to conceive this. And what an opportune time, as I look at it from my window. Yesterday was the Founders' Day, the 11th November.
Yes.
of Lady Auburn College. And now with exams happening during these times in the semester system, we shifted it to Women's Day on 8th March or around it. So we evolve with time. We are not bound by, bound by things as rules, but we are bound by ethos. We celebrate, even during pandemic, we don't give up. We are there doing a virtual classroom, virtual meetings. Even today, we have one prestigious Kamlapuri Sabharwal lecture, which is almost 50 years old. Today is the 48th one. At 6 in the evening, it is being conducted from World Bank, from Washington, DC. So we do not give up. We will just go on the way we have been taught and brought up at Lady Auburn College, particularly me. So being an alumni, I want to hold its portal. As an alumni, as an urbanite, I'm proud to be one. And yes, to do justice to all the previous directors. Some of them were alumni, some of them were not alumni. But all of them had one thread in common, that when you are in Lady Auburn, and I say this to everyone, you just have to spend 1 year. You can do 1 year degree or a diploma and you become an urbanite, because we leave an ethos and a way of life and an excellence, a way of life, and not to do it compromisingly. There could be individual differences, but there is a space to grow. So it's all right if you do not meet up the standards, but you must have a mission and the goal to be at it. So let me just briefly say what was the Hennah Sen legacy which she left behind with her deed. She was there for a long period, 1932 to 47. That makes it a good 14, 15 years. That was enough to create an impact and to set the ball rolling. And to keep the college at its pinnacle, every Founders Day, we give it as a tribute to all the founder members and the governing body for leading. So let me just give you a glimpse of how we walk that journey. You have the evidence from Renu's presentation, and you will, just after my presentation, see a film which I made somewhere in early 2000. And in 2007, the college celebrated its Platinum Jubilee, which was in 2007, 75 years. And right now on website, there is another film which we have mooted for the last 5 years. It is prepared by the students. We spent no cost, nothing. Our own students prepared it. And that film, talks volumes of what we are able to do and what we can do. We are always more interested in doing what we can do. Able is something which, sometimes it is limiting and sometimes it is delimiting. You can grow. But the important part is that we should be doing all the good things that come to our mind. So as on 1st November 2021, these are the courses that we have, and that is BSc Pass Home Science, BSc Honors Home Science. And in 2014, we started with BTech in a 4-year program introduced as an experiment in Delhi University called FYUP. We started with BTech Food Technology. We had AICTE inspection and they graded us very high and they said, we will give you MTech at the end of these 4 years. However, the FYUP program got rolled back. And so we just shrunk back to the honors program. And since then, we have BSc Honors Food Technology. And our students are everywhere, internationally, Leeds, Australia, Stanford. They are doing MBA, they are doing food technology. So they are everywhere. And we have, kind of launched them with state-of-the-art education. We have our traditional Masters of Food and Nutrition since 1959, MSc Human Development since 1972, Development Communication and Extension, and another MSc Resource Management and Design Application since 1964. However, these names are new and these names came up in the 2007 Platinum Jubilee year, where we are now giving masters in these individual areas and not necessarily home science, but they are under the larger umbrella of home science. And fabric and apparel sciences, earlier called textile and clothing. So these 5 MSCs, they just continue. And we have PG Diploma in Dietetics since 1972, Bachelor's in Education. This is one of the first postgraduate programs of the college. And Bachelor's in Education, in Special Education, that is MR, we realized with our Masters in Human Development and Childhood Studies and our Enabling Center and our emphasis on disability studies, that we were recognized by RCI and all other affiliated bodies to be, excellent educationists for special education. And we did all the experiments for inclusive education, how to bring about inclusive education, what should be the, the milestones and yardsticks and goals. So making it very scientific. Did RCI request us to start the MR? And in 2007, this is like a landmark. It's like a birthday cherry that in 2007, when we celebrated the Platinum Jubilee, we also launched the B.Ed MR program. It is formally called Bachelors of Special Education. And we offer PhD in all the 5 areas. And with this, with this commitment that we are offering all of this, we got our accreditation done with the we have one of the earliest library, which is totally automated, worked on Lipsys software platforms and barcoding systems. Nobody in Delhi University had started it. It was in mid-90s we started this, and it was a perfectly automated library. Our library is dedicated to home science education and general education. So with those kind of cherry points, our accreditation score was very high. And we got it, as 3.44 out of 4 in the new system. It says out in the 7-point scale. And this was done in September 2018. In the same year, we got a national rank of 12 among all the colleges in the country. And in 19, it got changed to 21. Some more colleges joined. And the important part is that in 2016, our education department, by a private third-party evaluation of somebody in New Jersey called Brand Research Report MRG 2016, they awarded us with the recognition of most trusted brand. And they said this is the best education program in Asia. And we were given this, but 1 year before that, they gave us the national brand also. We didn't possibly take it because we felt these were private vendors. However, now there is a huge change towards private universities, private accreditations, etc. So this made a lot of sense. And we took this, and one of our faculty member went to Thailand, to Bangkok, to collect this award. So I give this as a great tribute to all the directors. Each one was, leading in their own way in in all kinds of verticals. Dr. Deolkar was from education, Dr. Bajaj was from nutrition, Dr. Annalakshmi was there from human development and childhood studies, and Roshni Deshpande was there from resource management and also from textile, both. And she wrote several books textbooks with Dungaji. So each one made a significant impact, and the legacy, therefore, as I say, a director's legacy of Hennah Sen continued over the generations. So these are by the year 1932 till 1947, Hennah Sen, till 61, Tarabai, till 1978, Dr. Deolkar, and then Modambiji came for 1 year, and and Mrs. Roshni Deshpande till 83, Dr. Annalakshmi was there till 1990, Dr. Bajaj was there till 2004, and so on. My specialization is also nutrition, incidentally. So these are the milestones, and we are very proud to say that those were 11 students from 9 states of this country in 1932, and I get all the alumni, and you would be surprised, all foreign visitors, FAO, the Pakistan people, the Sri Lanka people, they come, that we have the alumni here, they come with their grandchildren to tell that I teach you this prayer is sung in this hall, Seth Lamlal Hall. Or this particular function, the way we celebrate the birthday is from Travancore, which is the hostel hall. So with great nostalgia, the next generation is brought up with a lot of positivity and family cohesive behavior. I take extreme pride in saying that we reinforce family spirit. We don't teach how to run a family, although that was also taught at one point of time as to how to run a cottage, how to run a family. And that's why the name is very misleading. But the fact remains that we value family, We work on women empowerment. The important part is we work on women empowerment through women. And all members of the family are empowered in the process. It is not, it has no gender bias. We do look at adolescent boys and girls, elderly, all together. So, but we do it through women, and therefore we call ourselves as women educationists. So from all these early years, did we, you can look at the red arrow, 1955, University of Tennessee International Program, 1909, Michigan State University, we had an MOU. And then I talked about a totally automated library, which was, barcoded, etc. Finally, from 96 to 2004, it finished all its automation work. And introduction of MR in 2007, the Platinum Jubilee Epigenesis was celebrated. University Grants Commission between 1987 to 2007 gave us an advanced center. We ultimately finished our Department of Special Assistance as an advanced center of recognized by UGC. And thereafter, a lot of recognitions came from all the government departments, just as Hennah talked about 5-year plan and how we should integrate. We worked through all the 5-year plans. We actually participated in formation of the 5-year plans and how to bring down stunting and anemia, and was working with Planning Commission and how to fix minimum wages. So I think at least I was in part of all this, so I can tell that this was happening very actively and very consciously. We got the first award from Delhi University under good teaching practices, and also institutional award on multidisciplinary from AIMS, that a lot of premier institutions in the country like IIT Delhi or All India Institute of Medical Sciences, they give us award of multidisciplinary education. We also got Nina Sibyl Award for the studies on disability. And then we got an OBC grant in 2009, and we erected 5 big blocks, huge blocks of of teaching. One is a student center inaugurated in 2015. It is an amphitheater also. We got 5 innovation projects. We built up a PG education center. We have 3 PG departments with 6 labs and 10 classes on each floor that have come up with this OBC grant. And we got a good practices award from Delhi University. They gave us 10 lakh rupees to enhance ICT, and we bought the IEC, basically the cameras, the LCD projectors, and the LED panels in every classroom for ICT-enabled education. Although what we got was that this was an each one teach one program, and this is now a pen reader. It's a reader. It gives an audio voice of what it is reading on the book, and this was recognized. This is both enabling people like with visually disabled people can actually read a book by this pen method. So having said that, today we hold a rank, last one, that we, so the ranks, like any other government body, they keep going up and down. So we have come from 21 to 32 to 24 now this year. And we have got national awards by Niti Aayog, WCD, College got its award on Poshan Abhiyan. The 2 centers have already been talked about. They are the National Center of Excellence on diets and also on social action. And so these are the, just to say that every department, it center stages its ethos every year and brings it together by giving a memorial lecture. So there's Kamlapuri Sabarwal Memorial Lecture happening in the next 4 hours. And last year given by Umesh Kapil. We have Sanjam Randhawa Memorial Lecture by the Textile Department. Here is Satya Paul in one of the, the lectures in 2008. Roshni Deshpande, Aruna Roy, Medha Pathak talking about it in this 9th Roshni Deshpande oration. And we also have National International Conference on Learning by Department of Education. They are going to hold in the next 3 weeks. We have this international conference, and we have alumni of Child Development Lecture. They have contributed money to have prestigious talks by landmark speakers to just kind of center stage and keep the ball rolling to excellence. So there are many national, international recognitions to teachers, to students, to the college as a whole, and I salute all my people, all my teachers, and all my students who have passed out. Not only that, I also hold hand with international students. These are students of Michigan State University who keep coming to us since 1998. And there are many more by the Syracuse University, etc. So in short, I'm saying that the legacy that Mrs. Hennah Sen gave of working towards working with national programs, international linkages, and working towards scientific education, advances in home science education and education in particular. So this is a tribute to her legacy by all of us, all subsequent directors, governing bodies, students, and faculty. Thank you, one and all, for being there and for listening to this. So let me just give a glimpse of a film for the next 2 minutes. This is a new film which I will not give. This is on the website, and this is the old film made in 2000 and then revised in 2007.
Not very long back, women's
Yutika,
education
stop
in
this.
India used to be a thought for the future. But the
3:15 हो गए।
and
स्मिता पल्लित को देने का नहीं है क्या?
Dr. Sidhu, can
There's
we?
no sound.
Yeah, can we have sound?
If this is for 7 minutes, should we exit?
No, you can continue, but the sound was not there.
Yes, Yutika ji, should I discontinue?
I think you can. Yeah, or of course we can show this later. No?
Yeah, sure.
okay,
Thank
yeah?
you. We were actually, Renu was making a call to you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So thank you for your patient listening. And both these films are available on website. Anybody can view it. And this one is for 7 minutes. The other one is for 20 minutes. So I hope that you will all hold hands of Lady Irwin College. And this is our grandmother body called All India Women's Conference, not just parent as Aiwc, but we are completely pampered by all AIWC members, and we feel really blessed, and with warm regards and hugs for this great event. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so
Thank you.
much, Professor Sidhu. That was an amazing presentation by both of you, right from history to the present. And thank you so much. We'll show this. If Renuji stays on for the program, we can show this in the end, right? Thank you so much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Thank you. And now we proceed with our program. The next speaker for today is Mrs. Smita
Yeah.
Palit. I would
Yutika,
request.
I was just wondering whether
Yeah.
we will be able to finish the presentation of Smita Palit, in time. So we can switch to the VC, switch the
Right.
president, and come back again.
We
What
can
do you
do.
think,
Yeah.
Sheilaji?
No, I think we can finish Smita Palit's. It won't take long.
And then
I was also-
Anuradha's video in the end.
Yeah. Anuradha's video and the
the
movie
end.
trip on Lady
Yes,
Irwin
yes.
College we can show in the end. Yeah.
I think we
So
can
we continue.
request.
Yeah, we continue with the program, and without wasting
yeah.
any time, I would request Dr. Smita Palit, Honorary Secretary and Standing Committee Member of AIWC from Kolkata branch. So she's going to talk about Mrs. Hennah Sen, early life.
Yeah,
And
she has to stop sharing the screen. Dr. Sidhu has to stop sharing the
Yeah,
screen.
I'm just trying to go to the main menu.
Okay.
Smita ji, are you there?
Yes, I am here.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
A bit
Yeah, we
louder.
can hear you.
Bit louder, Smita ji.
Here it
Yeah,
is.
we can see you now.
Shall I start?
Yes, please.
Yeah,
Over to you.
please.
Okay. Good afternoon, our guests my seniors and my sisters. I feel privileged to be part of AIWC and also be a part of this glorious past president's webinar. And I'm also proud of the fact that Mrs. Hennah Sen hails from Bengal, my state. I am thankful to our president, Srimati Sheila Kakre, to have given me this opportunity, and thanks to the entire team of AIWC. Today's earlier dignitaries have already presented an extensive information about the Hennah Sen, and in this restricted time, I will cover from my PPT the early life, education and achievements of her efforts from AIWC platform. Hennah Sen in 1894 born and to 1957. She was an Indian educator, politician and feminist, and the president of All India Women's Conference, Delhi, India.
Can you see the PPT?
Yeah, we can.
Yes. Okay. She publicly advocated for women's education challenges and the conditions faced by the women in India. She was 22nd President of All India Women's Conference in 1951 and 1952. She was member of first Indian Rajya Sabha between 1952 to 1957. She was one of the founder member of Lady Arvind College, Delhi, 1932 to 1947. In 1948, she was an observer of All India Conference of Social Work, New York. She was leader of Indian delegation at the International Union of Child Welfare in London in 1950. She was honorary secretary of Indian delegations to UNESCO held in Paris in 1951. She was member of Indian Goodwill Mission in China in 1951 and formed friendship between India and rest of the world. She was an advisor to the Indian government for rehabilitation of women and children refugees after partition of India. These are her lifetime highlights. In her early life, Mrs. Hennah Sen was born in 1894 in Calcutta. Her father, Peri Mohan Guha, an eminent lawyer, Bengali Hindu in origin and later converted to Judaism, and her mother, Seema Gubbe, was from a Baghdadi Jewish family. During those days, Calcutta was home to a vibrant and dynamic Jewish community from Middle East and colloquially called Baghdadis. They enriched Calcutta socially, culturally, and economically. The Jewish community at that time established distinct space by contributing synagogues, schools, hospitals, and many welfare institutions. Hennah Sen, with her three siblings, were raised under Jewish faith. Her elder sister, Regina Guha, was the first woman to take up law in Bengal after obtaining the first place in her first class of MA degree in English at Calcutta University. Regina wanted to practice criminal law, but India at that time was not prepared to admit practicing women lawyers to the bar. Regina fought against the conservative attitude of court, and she then joined as a principal of Jewish Girls' School in Calcutta, and she succeeded in establishing the women's right in the court of law in India and abroad. Hennah Sen married Dr. Satish Chandra Sen, a radiologist from Bombay, in 1925. They were blessed with their daughter Shanta, who was educated in India and Brand Mea College, USA. Hennah Sen's, this is the Pratt Memorial School where the Hannah Sen was studied in her schooling, in her middle school, from middle school. Hannah Sen started her education from Jewish Girls' School, Ezra Street, Kolkata. The Jewish Girls' School was opened in 1881 by members of Jewish community to counter missionary efforts when it was discovered that Jewish girls was about to be converted to Christianity. The Jewish school was noted for excellent performance of its students. Hannah Sen studied at Pratt Memorial School, which was established by Father A.J. Henry, who instructed the orphans living in the European asylums to attend classes at St. James. And 6 years later, the girls were shifted to an old building church called Pratt Memorial for Girls in 1882. She did her Bachelor of Law graduation in first class distinction from Diocesan College. And later, Hannah Sen sit for BA honors after qualifying for senior Cambridge. Finishing her graduation, honors graduation, she taught at Jewish Girls' School, Calcutta, and later went to Bombay and took up the post of a principal, the first Indian principal at New High School for Girls at Bombay. Hannah Sen led a brilliant life and was amongst the circuit of elites and politicos. It was in Bombay where Hannah Sen met many of the leading personalities. Amongst them, the most notable was Sarojini Naidu, India's greatest female poet. She worked there till 1925, then married Dr. Sen during the same time. Soon after marriage, Dr. and Mrs. Sen went abroad for further studies. Mrs. Sen took up teacher's diploma from University of London and later became a research scholar in psychology. At that time, she was become close to Sarojini Naidu, and on her inspiration, she came back to Delhi and he was developed the Lady Irving College. It was then at AIWC's primary mission was defined as an educational reforms. As its first resolution, which was passed in Pune in January 1927, her enthusiasm and zeal of work, Lady Irving College blossomed into a major institution in the country. This is the photograph of Lady of Hannah Sen during she was a directress of the college, and she is meeting with the Usha Khanna, Peshawar, Northwest Frontier Province from. So, Lady Irving College was post-secondary education of home science. It was established by the founding member of with our members in forefront of freedom struggle, including Sarojini Naidu, Rajkumari Amrit Kaur, Kamala Devi Chattopadhyay, Hansa Mehta, and many more from AIWC. And now I give the achievements of her efforts from AIWC platform. Hannah Sen was an eminent woman power of yesteryears with a sense of world citizenship, deep intuitive understanding, a charming personality, and intellectual with clear mind. These invaluable qualities made her popular and still fondly remembered for her work towards upliftment of women. Hannah Sen was very vocal about women's rights and raised her voice at AIWC conference and global conference for social and economic justice, which was approved by Economic and Social Council. In 1951, Hannah Sen represented AIWC as an Indian delegate to People's Republic of China and supported unification of Indonesia and China with United Nations of International Stability and Peace. She worked with United Nations and her approach compelled to declare human rights as a key right to all citizens for social justice. She emphasized the importance of women's education. She said if education is to be limited to men or to women, that it should be given to women, surely will pass to next generation. She demanded equal education and employment opportunity for women, which will strengthen the women financially and socially, and her suggestions to Central Pay Commission was for equal pay for work of equal value. When shortage of food arose in 1951, she took guidance from All India Women's Council Delhi and advised branches to popularize the idea of family planning system and see the necessary facilities of economic value reaches to an average woman. He also pleaded on nationality rights of married women and resolution adopted by United Nations Commission that the nationality rights should be for both men and women after the marriage. So this is in short about her work in during the time of AIWC, but in the meantime she was and in the Jawaharlal Nehru, our Motilal, our Gandhi, our Gandhiji, and many more dignitaries of that time in India. So, and this is, and my references are from Baghdadi Jewish Women in India, Jewish Women Archives in 1920, and Kaustav Chowdhury 2017, revisiting the educational and literacy activities among the Jewish women of Calcutta, International Journals of Social Science Studies, recalling Jewish Calcutta, and the Recalling Jewish Calcutta, Hennah Sen, from 4 Women Pioneer 2020.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
This is my research work, or whatever we can say about the Hennah Sen. And
thank you, Smita ji. Thank you so much. Thank you. It was an amazing presentation, and we are so glad, and such well-researched presentations from all of you, from Professor Renu, from Dr. Sidhu, from you. I think we have got so many new insights into her life. We cannot imagine. I mean, we are lucky to hear from all of you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. It was amazing. Wonderful presentations. Now we go over to our next president, Srimati Renuka, who was the 23rd president in 1951-52. And we have another busy and famous personality with us. We are so glad this time in this session we have got amazing speakers. We have none other than the Vice Chancellor of Ashoka University, Professor Malubika Sarkar. I'm so happy, and we thank you for coming and taking your time out of your busy schedule. She has been the Vice Chancellor of Ashoka University since 2019. She is also an alumna of Cambridge University and has been a professor of English at Jadavpur University, and was first Vice Chancellor of Presidency University in Kolkata during 2011-14, and is also an invited fellow of the English Association FEA at the UK. We are so glad you are with us and you've accepted the invitation. Over to you, Professor Malubika. We know you are in a hurry, but we would love to hear you during your time. Over to you.
Thank you very much. It's really an honor for me to be invited to speak at a forum such as this. So, very good afternoon to everyone. I don't have a presentation to show you. The last few presentations we saw were so incredible. I wish I had managed to prepare something of that kind, but I didn't manage the time. But I'll start by, first of all, thanking all the distinguished members of AIWC, all the organizers for inviting me to speak today. It really is a privilege. I know about the superb work that all of you do, and I really feel honored to be asked to come and speak here. So I did say that I would speak very briefly about my reminiscences of Mrs. Renuka Ray. Mrs. Renuka Ray's exceptional leadership abilities and her achievements as pioneering social activist, her political contributions, her closeness to Mahatma Gandhi, and her myriad achievements will be highlighted by others. I will simply speak to you briefly about my reminiscences, about my few brief meetings with her, and my attempt to understand her by looking and researching into her family background. Because I believe that we will understand Mrs. Renuka Ray much better by reconstructing briefly the milieu in which she would have grown up, her parents and her grandparents, trying to reconstruct in our minds the conversations she would have heard at home, the achievements of her immediate family, her natural home environment, the time she was growing up, to really understand where she came from. What was it that propelled her into such an exceptional career? To understand that, I feel that we need to go back and reflect a little about her family and her upbringing, and that is what I shall try to do. So Mrs. Renuka Ray was born in 1904 and she died in 1997. I had the privilege of meeting her in her home at Sweno Street in Kolkata in the 1970s. I remember her as a somewhat frail-looking but very distinguished person, and clearly someone with a strong personality. As some of you are aware, she had a challenge within her family to deal with, and this she did remarkably well. I had occasion to meet her daughter, Ranjana, years later through her friend and my senior colleague at Jadavpur University, the late Professor Anita Banerjee, economist. And that meeting with Ranjana provided further insights into Renuka Ray's remarkable personality. But those were meetings in passing, as it were. Many years later, when I became closely associated with the Women's Coordinating Council that Mrs. Renuka Ray had founded, but I began to think more about her, trying to understand her better. The extent of her contribution to the cause of women and social welfare generally, where did that compulsion come from? Where did that energy come from? That is what I was trying to work out for myself. So I was impressed and intrigued and wanted to understand better what it was in her upbringing and the influence of her immediate family that made her the remarkable woman she was. My inquiries led me to the heart of the Bengal Renaissance and the outstanding contribution of Bengal to education in India, with education as the gateway to progress self-reliance, and national identity. My fascination grew the more I continued to research and reconstruct the records of Mrs. Renuka Ray's family, her parents, and her grandparents on her mother's side. Each turn in the narrative revealing a new facet of the story of Bengal that is so much a part of an awakening India. Renuka Ray was a daughter of Satish Chandra Mukherjee, ICS, and his wife Charulata Mukherjee. Her husband was Shotendranath Ray, S.N. Ray, educated at Cambridge University and an ICS, for some time Chief Secretary of West Bengal. Renuka Ray's parents and grandparents are part of the history of Bengal. So I want to highlight some details about that home environment, which must have been critical in molding her into the natural leader that she was. Renuka Ray's father was Satish Chandra Mukherjee, whose father was one of the pioneers of the Brahmo Samaj in the 19th century. Satish Chandra Mukherjee, born in 1865 in Banipur, Hooghly, was educated at South Suburban School in Bhawanipur, Calcutta, and graduated with a BA in English from Presidency College in 1884, at a time when the principal of that college would have been the redoubtable C.H. Dorney, who was principal from 1876 to 92. Satish Chandra Mukherjee, Renuka Ray's father, went on to complete his MA in English, a degree in law, and qualified for the ICS. Satish Chandra had close contact with Shivnath Shastri, Rajendranath Sheel, Rabindranath Tagore, Swami Vivekananda, and others. And in 1902, he set up the Dawn Society as a non-political forum for self-reliance in education. And then in 1906, Satish Chandra Mukherjee established the National Council of Education in Bengal together with Aurobindo Ghosh. This led to the Bengal National College, the beginnings of what is today Jadavpur University. So while Jadavpur University's history records the generosity of founder donors, which of course is the right thing to do, the seed of Jadavpur University's inception was sown by Renuka Ray's father, Satish Chandra Mukherjee, when he set up the National Council of Education. Satish Chandra Mukherjee's wife, that's Renuka Ray's mother, was Charulata Mukherjee, social worker and women's rights activist who was associated with the Brahmo Samaj and the All India Women's Conference. She worked alongside her contemporaries like Rajkumari Amrit Kaur, Hansa Mehta, about whom we've been hearing, and others. From her parents, Renuka Ray would have inherited, undoubtedly, a liberal mindset, a pioneering spirit, a belief in self-reliance, and the power of education, belief in the power of education, and an activist temperament. The foundation of the National College of Education is a landmark contribution to the nationalist movement and national progress. So I can imagine many conversations at home, perhaps over breakfast, or at the time of jol khabar or afternoon tea, where the young Renuka and her brothers would have heard and imbibed a pioneering zeal and the impetus to build institutions from their father and their mother. From their mother, apart from Charulata's own remarkable contributions to the cause of women, they would also have heard much about her parents, Charulata's parents. Renuka Ray's grandparents on her mother's side were truly distinguished and stellar personalities. Her mother's father, Roshanna Kumar Ray, most often referred to as P.K. Ray, he was born in 1849 and lived till 1932, was originally from Dhaka, now in Bangladesh, and came from a conservative Hindu family. But his attraction for the Brahmo Samaj and for Christianity alienated him from his family. P.K. Ray got the Gilchrist Scholarship, and in 1873, he graduated from the University of London and later was awarded a DSc. Returning home to India, he taught philosophy at Presidency College and was the first Indian principal of Presidency College for 1 year in 1905. Now, this was a significant milestone, as it would be as late as the 1930s before Indians started becoming principals of Presidency College. So to have been a principal of Presidency College in 1905 was no mean achievement. And as principal of Presidency College in 1905, P.K. Ray revived what had once existed as the Students' Union. P.K. Ray revived the Students' Union because he wanted the students to reach out to each other, to support each other. And he called one of the presidency students of his time and asked him to become the Union General Secretary. This student, whom P.K. Ray invited to become the Union General Secretary, then a student of Presidency College, was Rajendra Prasad, later President of India. Of course, Presidency's alumni list is absolutely amazing. The marble bust of P.K. Ray, Professor of Philosophy and Principal, is today a figure of benediction in the first floor veranda outside the professor's common room of erstwhile Presidency College, now Presidency University. P.K. Ray's wife, Renuka Ray's grandmother, was Sharula Ray. She was the founder of Gokhale Memorial Girls' School, established in 1920. One of the few university-educated women of her times, her idealism and pioneering spirit led her to create an opportunity for women's education. So she founded the Gokhale Memorial Girls' School. Gokhale Memorial Girls' School, with its unique blend of emancipated Brahmo spirit, a missionary character-building temperament, and nationalist zeal, grew to be a school and college. And Sharula Ray's sister was Lady Abula Bose, wife of scientist Sir Jagadish Bose. Without doubt, Sharula Ray would have been familiar not only with Jagadish Bose and science, but also through Jagadish Bose and Abula Bose with sister Nivedita, with whom they were very close. So again, from her mother's side of the family, Renuka would have been influenced by the zeal of institution building, great educational tradition, great science, and possibly conversations centering around Sister Nivedita, who died in 2011 when Renuka would have been only a child of 6, but she would have heard about Sister Nivedita without doubt from her mother. I can imagine Nivedita, Jagadish Bose, and the vibrant Presidency College as being among the stories that Renuka would have heard from her mother during her growing up years. Mrs. Renuka went on to become the president of AIWC, and then in 1960, she established the Women's Coordinating Council in West Bengal. It is still one of the very important organizations in West Bengal that not only does work on their own of various projects that we run, but does the very important work of coordinating more than 70 other NGOs in times of crisis. I had the opportunity to meet Mrs. Renuka because her husband's sister, Mrs. Ashoka Sinha, was my aunt-in-law. So it was as the new member of the family, soon after my marriage, that I was taken to meet Mrs. Renuka. I did not know when I met her then about her parentage, about her close association with 2 institutions through her parents, which were an integral part of my growing up. I was introduced to her as a great social worker, as someone who was also a political figure close to Gandhiji, but did not at that time know about her closeness with Gokhale Memorial Girls School or with Presidency College. Gokhale Memorial Girls School was a school where my grandmother had studied and where I was also a student. Presidency College was my father's college. My father was India's first neurologist. It was also the college where both my husband and I were students. Later, of course, I had the huge privilege and honor of being asked to be Vice Chancellor of Presidency University. But when I met Mr. Renuka, had I known about these personal connections with 2 institutions with which I was very familiar, would I have dared to engage her in discussions about these, I wonder? I think perhaps not. I remember Mrs. Renuka as a gracious figure, but clearly also as an achiever, well-traveled, with a BSc from the London School of Economics, and distinguished All India social worker, member of the Legislative Assembly, member of the Lok Sabha, close to Gandhiji. She was a truly charismatic person. When I met her, I was very young. I wouldn't have had the courage to ask her too many questions. I'm asking them now because I want to understand her better. Today, I feel that the stories about her parents and her grandparents need to be told at greater length, need to be heard for everyone to understand Mrs. Renuka better. Her own great merit, her activities, her huge contributions are without doubt exceptionally important. But to understand the person who did all of this, I think we need to delve deeply into her family background and understand that better. So today I feel deeply privileged to be a part of the Women's Coordinating Council that she had created, and I offer her my homage and my deepest respect. There are very few women like her for whom the epithet, a shining light, would be truly befitting. So I pay her my deepest respects, and I thank all of you and the organizers for inviting me to speak about her in my own very personal way. And I hope that it will set some of you on the trail to discover more about her, her antecedents, her parents, grandparents, and family, and understand better the great woman that she was. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Malavika. Thank you. Truly amazing reminiscences.
Very nice. Very
Yeah.
nice. Very impressive.
Yeah,
Very
I mean,
impressive. Thank you
we
so
were
much.
just carried away into that era, and your question, I hope you have got the answer to the questions that you were looking for, and your own contribution to understanding her and doing that in your own way by presenting her, I think sorts out that question, gives the answers. And I'm sure, and we all enjoyed, and it was like, I wish there was a movie, going on, and we could see that.
It was very soft and very impressive. Very well spoken. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and the best part was the families that she belonged to. That was something we didn't know. Some part we knew as history students, but some of that was like Jagdish Chandra Bose and Sister Nivedita. That was truly interesting and a new light on the whole thing, researched. Thank you so much for taking time out to be with us, and hope you stay in touch with us. Thank you, ma'am.
Very much. I must apologize that I'll have to leave for a meeting. I wish I could have stayed on.
Yeah, but we'll do the vote of thanks later, the formal, but we thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Malavika ji, we would like to visit your university once. We have heard so much about it actually.
Yeah.
But you must come. Just send me one email and come. You'll be most welcome.
Thank you so much. I have been dying. I have heard so much about the university and the faculty and the hostels,
Especially the faculty.
gardens, faculty, yes. Very impressive.
Very impressive.
Research work, then your, linkages with foreign universities. Oh God, it's amazing to be living in India at this time and having such universities.
So let's take a delegation. Yeah, let's take a delegation of AIWC.
Articles published in the newspapers by the professors of Ashoka University. Very impressive. Very impressive.
Coming on TV channels, on discussions also. Malika herself had come once, but she couldn't join that day.
Okay, I thank you everyone, and let's proceed with the program. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Malavika ji, again. Let's proceed with the program, and our
Ji, unmute. Can't hear you.
Oh, did you miss out everything? Okay.
Yes.
So I speak again. Professor Mamta Chaudhary Ray is Vice Chairman Academic, West Bengal State Council of Higher Education, and she's going to speak on Renuka Ray, a political stalwart in India's pre- and post-independence era. Professor Mamta Chaudhary is, as I said, Vice Chairman of the West Bengal Higher State Education Council, and has been member of several academic and government ministries and bodies. And she has also taught in Presidency College, Kolkata as professor and head, has been the principal of Lady Brabourne College also in 2004-05, and has been an editor, I think, and is still an editor of their magazine, their journal, and has given many lectures. Most importantly, she has been a member of different academic bodies of the universities, has been a member of NAC, National Assessment and Accreditation Council, some years ago. We welcome you, ma'am, and we're all ears. to hear what you're going to talk about our 23rd President, Srimati Renuka.
Sheilaji, Dr. Chaudhary will need to be co-host to make her presentation.
Okay.
Is that okay?
If it is not possible, Sheilaji, then I may begin just, right?
Just a minute. I'll do it.
I think she's...
Below.
I think you can even otherwise try. Can you see the icon?
Yes.
Why don't you try? I think I did that once. You can just try if it works. The share icon you have below the screen.
अरे ममता मुझे नाम ही नहीं मिल रहा है.
Oh, are you? Have you joined? No, Professor Mamta. That must
Professor. Okay, it must be. Because I was looking at doctor, you know.
Yeah.
आ जाएगा अभी. Yeah. Done.
Yeah. Thank you. Now you can start, Mamta. There is a share icon at the bottom.
Yeah, yeah, right.
Can you see? Can you see that? Yeah. And you can have to click there. Yeah.
Is it visible?
No, not yet. Not yet. You have to then click on the window.
Yes, I have. You're right. I don't know where it's not coming.
Are you able to share? Or...
No, it's not coming.
Okay. If you can share your PPT with anyone.
Yes, that's not.
With Sheilaji or anyone, yeah. Indrani ji, can you?
I have sent it to Sheilaji. Sheilaji, you may ask the office to share and Dr. Chaudhary will speak.
Oh, that's a good idea.
No, I'm not getting the why it's lost.
It's okay. It's okay. We'll do it from here.
Then we okay.
Can you? So when you click on the share screen, there's a window.
Right, I have. Somehow I am not getting it, right? I find the share screen, but I am not getting it somehow.
Okay. So Sheilaji, will you do?
So
just a minute.
A very good afternoon to all of you. The President of Aiwc. Should I be a little louder?
No, we can hear. We can hear.
Perfect. And President of this session. I have seen Srimati Beena Jain also. She's attending this. Other dignitaries of the AIWC and Lady Arun College. Malavika Di has just left, but it has been a very, very enriching presentation from her.
Can you see?
Sheilaji, this is my presentation.
Oh.
It is her presentation, yes. It's not mine.
This one?
Yes, this is the one.
Okay.
Thank you, Sheilaji.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
You can go ahead.
At the outset, I extend my humble gratitude to all of you, especially the organizers who have given me this opportunity to reflect on a great life, I would say. We have stated that she was a stalwart. Really, she was a stalwart because of her steadfastness, uncompromising attitude, and loyalty to the Congress party. She was basically, as we have heard, a Gandhian to the core of her heart, and she remained that. This loyalty made her a real stalwart. I'd like to add two things to what Malubika has observed about her. One is about P.K. Rai. P.K. Rai was the first Indian principal of Presidency College. Malubika has narrated everything about him. I would like to say that I developed an interest in his family long back when I became, at quite young age, the only lady principal of Presidency College, around 2005. And at that time, I tried to find the histories of the ex-principals as you are now exploring the lives of your illustrious past presidents. And at that time, I found reference when going through the papers related to P.K. Rai, reference to Srimati Renuka Ray. And there I found another thing. This family was so liberal in those conservative days that P.K. Rai was the first principal, Indian principal, of course, but he dared to introduce co-education in Presidency College. He sent his daughter Charulata along with another Brahmo girl to Presidency College. This co-education was short-lived at that time, and later in 1944, P.C. Mahalanobis introduced co-education in Presidency College. But this actually, I was amazed by P.K. Ray's stand and tried to explore. And then I found this book, Reminiscences, Renuka Ray's Reminiscences. And it was only just 2 days at that time I took to go through the entire book, and so many things came to the mind. Today I have been asked to focus on her political career, which I believe if I call her a politician, this will be limiting her personality, because he was a multi-dimensional personality. Not only that, in whatever field she entered, she left her mark in that field. Malubika also referred to Rajendra Prasad, the first president of India and also the president of Constituent Assembly. He was a student of Presidency College during that time. But Renuka, when in the Constituent Assembly, as nominated by the AIWC, fighting for Hindu code, she found Rajendra Prasad little conservative in his attitude towards women. And this uneasiness between the two vanished like a magic when one day Rajendra Prasad came to know that she was the granddaughter of P.K. Ray. His attitude completely changed. I do not know how we should define that or explain that, but his attitude from that day changed. Renuka Ray, as I am not going to repeat, but the politician in her and the social activist in her cannot be differentiated. It was her unique model where he treated the two things, the life of a politician, the public servant, and the life of a social activist, just as two sides of a coin. So that was the model which has rarely been followed in Indian politics. I would summarize that her time, she was born during the anti-partition movement and grew up her early childhood through the anti-partition movement of Bengal from 2005 to 2011. Her family upholding the ideals of Bengal Renuka. Her relations very active in anti-partition movement and also in the Indian National Congress, including Chittaranjan Das and others. Malavika has mentioned quite a few names. Her family friends and visitors, they are also active in Indian National Congress and also in the India's freedom struggle. And very importantly, her early exposure to the free British society in her childhood when she and her family went to stay with P.K. Ray's family in London. When P.K. Ray became the advisor to the Indian students in British High Commission there, she stayed there and went to school along with her brother Shantu. And that exposure to the Free British Society, all these factors contributed to Renuka's early political curiosity, which centered obviously around India's freedom struggle. The defining mark in the growth of her political career was her meeting with Gandhiji. Gandhiji came to India in 1915 after a very successful Satyagraha movement in South Africa. So he was a known figure in India by that time. In 1917, Gandhiji participated or initiated the Satyagraha movement in Champaran. Gandhiji's non-cooperation, non-violent movement against the Rowlatt Act could involve a lot of people. And Renuka, because of this boycott call by Gandhiji, left her college at the age of 16, the diocesan college. She was a student. And as if she was preparing herself for taking active part in Gandhian call for non-violent, non-cooperation movement. And Gandhiji came to Calcutta at that time in 1920. And it was, as he called, dawn of a new era in her life. Gandhiji idea of Swaraj, she was attracted by two things. Gandhiji's idea of Swaraj, holistic freedom from all bondages, not only political, but social and economic, left deep impression on the 16-year-old. And secondly, she found that in the non-violent, non-cooperation movement of Gandhiji, huge number of women could freely participate. Millions of India's unarmed population could participate freely. So she could sense that it was only Gandhiji's model which could work in India in those days. So we think that how she analyzed Gandhiji through her young eyes, that actually made a true Gandhian in the making. Gandhiji's, Renuka's first direct involvement was she was asked to spin on charka by Gandhiji. She was asked to go from house to arouse national consciousness among women and collecting, more importantly, collecting money for the Tilak Swaraj Fund created by Gandhiji. Her first-hand perception of deteriorating rural poverty in districts where her father served drew her closer to Gandhiji's thrust on revival of rural handicrafts through boycott of everything British. she also observed, perhaps from discussion from the elders, the shrewd politician in Gandhi. So Gandhiji sat on the driver's seat in the special session of the Indian National Congress 1920. This obviously enhanced space for women in politics. So this session was so important. Renuka and her friends, at that time, they adopted Gandhiji's ideas, ideology, and also means. And Renuka felt that a silent revolution was taking place. Her lifelong passion for establishing women's equal rights and promoting empowerment owed much to the family, but more to Gandhi. She was ready to spend time in the Sabarmati ashram with Gandhiji after one short stay. But her parents and Gandhiji sent Renuka to London for education in free atmosphere, which they believed would be a great facilitator of worthy public life. So she was sent to the London School of Economics. Her days under the tutelage of illustrious teachers like Harold Lasky, PM to be Major Attlee, and others, her association with brilliant peer groups contributed in a big way in shaping her socio-political ideas and mode of operation on ground. In those days, in fact, at the LSC, generations of students, mostly from the so-called third world countries, gained wider perspective and insight into the problems of human affairs and crystallized their aspirations and activities. Renuka was no exception. She, like her peers in many countries, played an important role in the emerging socio-political scenario of their respective countries, including freedom from colonial rule. Her analytical study of the Indian economic history and structure of pre-independence Indian economy reconfirmed her faith in the Gandhian priority on rural reconstruction through revival of handicrafts. And it is at this point she differed from the second planned policy of Jawaharlal Nehru, who put a great thrust on basic and heavy industrialization of the country at the cost of rural restructuring. Her later leanings to the socialist group of the Indian National Congress, led by Jayaprakash Narayan and others, were perhaps rooted in the LSC experience and exposure. Then her marriage in 1925 again to an ICS, Shutin Rai, a very liberal person who promised that he would extend unstinted support to her interest and public life, which he did till the end. She gained valuable experience and understanding of rural socio-economic milieu in the late 1920s and 30s while accompanying husband again in districts. The abject rural poverty, in her analysis, could be reversed by resorting to handicrafts revival. She was drawn closer to Gandhi and the Indian National Congress. And interestingly, she found after long years a Mahila Samiti set up by Mother Charulata still working in Hooghly and working for establishing equal rights of women. And she obviously, Renuka Ray, she converted this unit into an AIWC constituent in the district of Hooghly. I would now say something on her activities as a political observer and a social activist. Renuka in the 1930s. The Government of India Act 1935 envisaged a loose federation with provincial governments. Gandhiji opposed this, but later he accommodated the eagerness of the Congress to work the act. In 1937 election, Congress won in majority of provinces, leaving Bengal and Punjab to the Muslim League. In the 30s especially, after this election, after the Post-Government of India Act, she observed the British started to play in a dirty way the communal card. Gandhiji at that time turned from political negotiations to social reform. The Village Industries Association was created. Then the outbreak of Second World War and the dragging of India into the war without consulting the Indian stakeholders actually created a stir in Congress. Renuka at that time had opportunity to closely observe Gandhiji, Subhash Bose, and Jawaharlal. And in her reminiscences, she has given a beautiful account and analysis of the relationships to which much hype has later been made. Renuka's active role in politics as a freedom fighter started from the Quit India movement in the 1942. And this call was given by Gandhiji after the Cripps mission failed. A number of, though the National Congress under the leadership of Gandhiji indulged in non-violent demonstrations, protest, the alien government was shaken. And unfortunately, they started to adopt violent means, and Renuka recollected that thousands of non-violent demonstrators were killed by the police. During this time, Gandhiji desired that Renuka should be actively involved in extending protection to the thousands of Congress ordinary workers who were put in jail by the British. She did that in Bengal and also in Delhi. She collected funds from families and went from house to house of those families, needy families, whose sole earners were put in jails. During this time, she became close to many national leaders, Sucheta Kripalani, a leading politician post-1942, Aruna Asafali, the activist, and others at the national level. And it is remarkable that though her family was keen to pursue politics through parliamentarian process, and they did not like terrorism of any type, any sort. During this time, the violent outburst of the government on peaceful protesters, killing thousands, forced retaliatory attitude. In her desperation, it is remarkable, Renuka Ray even carried arms and ammunitions to the fighters in Chittagong and Comilla at the risk of being arrested. She was a mother also. Right. Then leadership in movement for uniform social code. Perhaps all of us know that her entry into the Constituent Assembly, in the Central Assembly, later constituted in the Central Assembly, she was nominated by the AIWC and other women's organizations as their representative, mainly to fight for women's right to property. In this endeavor, she tried her best, but of course, those days she failed. And she remembered that a politician and a great parliamentarian in the making from this time, she learned that in politics, fierce opposition and rivalry give opportunities for learning. Renuka observed with reservation the masculine atmosphere of the legislature and other important bodies and committees. She also observed the skill, erudition, cogency, and superb presentation of subjects by quite a few eminent legislators. She used to gain support of Congress opposition members in the Assembly while moving amendments to social and educational reform legislations. Women organizations' brave attempt to establish equality of women, the Hindu Code, failed. A vindication of Gandhiji's advice to Renuka, first to work for changing social attitude and then move amendments. The famine of 1943, I will not elaborate on this, but this also opened up during the tragedy days an immense opportunity for her to serve the sufferers. This famine of 1943, she called it man-made and war-based famine. Renuka rushed back to Calcutta when news of starvation, death, and misery reached. She gathered AIWC played a very leading role. She gathered first-hand data and reports from the East Bengal branches of the AIWC, informing rising number of starvation deaths. Her speech in the Central Assembly and collective drives led to large food donations sent to Howrah station, but it was not allowed by the then Muslim League government to proceed further to the worst affected areas. Her report of AIWC members rescuing children from dead parents lying in the streets of Calcutta, in fact, infuriated the then CM, Chief Minister of Bengal, Shurabutti, was still in a denial mode. Politics for service to the people. She rendered endless effort to mitigate misery and hunger during this time. She was close to AIWC. Vijay Lakshmi Pandit, as president of the AIWC, visited some worst affected famine districts, and she took initiative for mobilizing funds with Kamala Devi Chattopadhyay, past president of AIWC, and young Ashoka Gupta would be president. Renuka would set up a number of Save the Children homes for the famine orphans. Renuka analyzed later how dirty colonial politics overpowered elites who were professed to fight for democracy during the Second World War, who diverted their piled up food stocks to Europe instead of giving it to India's dying millions. Then the tragic period of pre-independent politics in India, the destructive Hindu-Muslim politics of the colonial rulers, Great Calcutta killings, independence through partition, riots in Punjab and Bengal and in some other places, in fact, bloodbath. And Renuka during this time was very, very proactive. She was made a member of the Congress Relief and Rehabilitation Committee and spent days and hours at life risk rescuing people from communally vulnerable locations. Then, of course, the Noakhali riot and riots in Bihar, Punjab, Maharashtra, and sporadically in some other places. Gandhiji rushed to Noakhali, Renuka, and other AIWC members. Many Congress leaders accompanied Gandhiji. During this time, when Gandhiji strongly resisted this Hindu-Muslim divide and rule policy of the British, Lord Mountbatten prevailed over Nehru and Patel on partition before independence. At last, Gandhiji conceded the Congress Working Committee's resolution in favor of partition. But Gandhiji observed that it would not happen if leaders like Subhas Bose was around there. India's independence came through dismemberment and human misery, killings, arson, rape, and loot. All this was witnessed by Renuka from close quarters. Then she was nominated to the Constituent Assembly, and again her fight was for the inclusion of property rights under fundamental rights and against Article 31. She vehemently opposed with others Article 31. At the beginning, Nehru supported, but later Nehru thought that the right of property should be justiciable against what Renuka and others tried to counter. And in her, she was very open in her observation and feelings, in her political understanding. She never hesitated to openly differed by accusing also openly Nehru that he not only laid down the professed principle of Congress, grant of land, right to the tiller, but also Nehru laid down himself. That was how she observed. Of course, Panditji, at that time, the Prime Minister of India, she did not like such observation, but Panditji was also a great parliamentarian. After 1 or 2 years, he again came to terms with Renuka. This was the stalwart in Renuka, steadfast, firm in her conviction. She also had exposure to international politics, especially as a delegate to the United Nations in 1949. She was assigned to the committee dealing with the matters pertaining to Economic and Social Council. President Roosevelt's wife, Eleanor, was the US delegate on same committee. Renuka and others from the so-called third world countries took up particularly the Latin American countries, took up the cause of creating a new world press agency of the non-aligned countries. This is very remarkable. She moved an amendment to ensure right of a nation or nation groups to set up news agencies as and when required. It was obviously resisted by the so-called Western developed group led by Eleanor. With much tact and lobbying, this group of Renuka was successful in passing the amendment against the mighty US. The Nehru-Liaquat Pact of 1950 placed the governments of both countries would encourage return of the citizens by giving back their homes and belongings. Renuka, then persuaded by Chief Minister of Bengal, Dr. B.C. Roy, to become the State Rehabilitation Minister, she fought the elections for the State Assembly for the first time from Rotua, a backward constituency in Malda district, in 1952. Her dedicated service to her constituency improved the communication and, most importantly, health infrastructure and educational opportunities to a great extent. Nowadays, in economics, we define development as expansion of the freedom of choices. What freedoms people enjoy in making their choice of the ideal life they like to live. And the basic indicators, the two basic indicators are education and health in the Human Development Index, with which many of us are familiar. It was this paradigm of human development. It came out first in 1990, much before Renuka realized from her exposure and experience from rural India that education and health could only bring development in the true sense. Then in 1957, she fought the Malda Lok Sabha. She took active role in the parliament. But what I would like to, at the end, the politician in her never compromised with the changing trends in the Congress parliamentarian activities. And Her analysis, her thrust on all this caused irritation to the party bosses at the time, and she was not given a ticket in the 1967 parliament election. Indira Gandhi tried to nominate her to the Rajya Sabha, which she declined. The denial of nomination actually to a great parliamentarian that was Renuka Ray is only one example of early blow to the evolving Indian polity, a trend later set in firmly. The Indian parliament was deprived of the service of an honest, upright, state-first politician who formed her ideas and ideology under the tutelage of Gandhiji, who had unparalleled experience and exposure to the rural India as well as to the international political order, and above all, who dedicated herself to the cause of equal rights of all, not only women, but all the downtrodden. She remained active in social work, setting up Women's Coordinating Council and also continuing her activities in the AIWC. She is indeed a role model in honest politics, which must be rooted in hard social work, above caste, creed, and communalities. Her lifelong loyalty to Gandhiji and her analysis how India in the post-independence years when Nehru himself was alive started to deviate from the basic Gandhian lines, the opulence of the minister's lifestyle, the opulence in hosting different dinner and other parties in honor of foreign dignitaries, the shift from inward policy, welfare policy, little shift to the outward non-alignment foreign policy, the higher thrust on that, which backfired in the 1962 and 1965. All this she analyzed with an objective view and vision. Wonderful analysis available in her writings, in her speeches. So today, I think that we are suffering from absence of role models in every sphere. Her multidimensional personality can be upheld as you are trying to do with such honesty, such care to project her as a role model, not only in politics, but also in social work and social activities. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Mamta Chaudhary. That was an excellent insight into the work of Srimati Renuka Ray in the independence era as a freedom fighter, integrating herself into the work of AIWC. I mean, it was an eye-opener indeed, how she, from such a background, which was immersed in nationalism itself. That was a very good presentation, and I'm sure, and as you rightly said in the end, we all do this because we look at them, our seniors, as the role models. You know, that's exactly why this seminar has been, started. And thank you so much for being with us. It was indeed a pleasure to hear.
I'm very sorry I have taken too much time, I think, right? I was so involved in that, right?
Good, no?
That's right. I am very sorry, madam.
It was a great pleasure, and we all were involved. We get carried away listening to our interests. Yeah.
And we didn't think about the time, no?
Great opportunity which you have given so kindly extended to me. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being. Thank you here. Now we proceed with the program, and our next speaker is Srimati Indrani Sengupta, Member in Charge, Art and Culture. And she is also a standing committee member and General Secretary of AIWC, Calcutta South Branch. Going to speak on Srimati Renuka Ray and her contribution to AIWC. Over to you, Indrani ji.
Namaskar. Am I audible?
Yes, perfect.
Yes.
And can you see the PPT?
The AIW, yes, this is my PPT.
Okay.
Thank you. I thank the AIWC President, Srimati Sheila Kakre, Secretary General, Mrs. Kuljit Kaur, Honorary Treasurer, Mrs. Rehana Begum, for giving me the opportunity to be a part of this prestigious series on past presidents of All India Women's Conference. I thank Srimati Manjula Ghosh former Vice President AIWC, and former Zonal Organizer AIWC Eastern Zone for guiding me at every step. I acknowledge my indebtedness to my reminiscences by Renuka Rai, AIWC and its growth in West Bengal by Reba Rai, AIWC Central Office, and internet resources for the information I'm presenting in the webinar. Renuka Rai, 23rd President of AIWC. Renuka Rai was the President of AIWC from 1952 to 1954. Her remarkable contribution to social service and her active response to social inequities through positive actions was widely admired also in India. I must stop a little here because the executive, Dr. Sarkar and Dr. Chaudhary Ray, they have already spoken so much about the family background and other aspects that I will go straight to her early education. In my 4th slide. Gender equality was taught at home, where she and her elder brother were both taught rudimentary domestic work. Equal opportunities were given to boys and girls. Renuka Rai went to Kensington High School when she stayed with her grandparents in England. After her return to Krishnanagar, she had her first lesson of tolerance, which was wide enough to embrace all faiths. She studied in Loreto School, Kolkata. She faced racial discrimination from Anglo-Indian and British boarders, but the nuns were very different and treated all equally. She studied in Dissolution College for Women in Kolkata, one of the 2 women's colleges in Kolkata, Betun College being the other. She and Lolita Rai were the first 2 girls to leave college for joining the non-cooperation movement. Next slide, please. The influence of national movement. As she grew up, she became aware of what was happening to India under the British rule. The unequal treatment meted out to Indians filled her heart with bitter resentment. The execution of Khudiram Bose left a deep impression on her, and she felt drawn into the freedom struggle. But, as has been mentioned before, her family's political ideal to fight through constitutional methods countered her admiration for the extremists. However, her meeting with Gandhiji gave her life a direction to be involved in the national movement. Since other points have been covered, I move on to my slide number 12 with Renuka Rai and the AIWC and her presidential speech. The first session of AIWC was held in Pune in 1927. Renuka Rai first attended an annual session in 1930 as a representative of West Bengal Constituent Branch with its headquarters in Bankura. In 1952, the Silver Jubilee year of AIWC, the Pune session was presided by Renuka Rai. I quote from her speech, open quotes, 25 years later, we meet again in this historic city where the AIWC had its origin. I am deeply conscious of the great honor you have done me in electing me president on the occasion of our Silver Jubilee anniversary. Close quotes. In her presidential address, she paid tribute to all the former AIWC presidents and mentioned how each of them luminously contributed to AIWC in their unique way. She then moved on to mention the reforms initiated by AIWC. To quote her words, open quotes. This organization also played a significant part in establishing the distinctive characteristic of women's movement in India, close quotes. Renuka Rai then called upon women to take up work facing India after independence to lay the foundation for future growth. Open quotes. After centuries of domination, we have gained the power to fashion our own destiny. Close quotes. Renuka Rai paid homage to Gandhiji and Rabindranath Tagore and their view on how women have an important role to play in the development of society. She also spoke of the widening of aims and objectives of AIWC so that it can fulfill the needs of time for all-round development of society. She called for organized work to tackle the basic problems of society. She mentioned the need for planned parenthood, disciplined and well-regulated lives, understanding the psychology of children to train them. As has been mentioned by our President, Srimati Sheela Kakre, it was during her time that the AIWC Central Office was established in Delhi. Now, I would like to move to my slide number 15. The other points have been covered by our previous speakers who spoke so well on the activities that are related with the political life of India. Women's Coordinating Council was founded by Renuka Rai in 1959. It came into existence as a result of the combined work done by a number of women's welfare organizations. The main focus was on emergency relief work. WCC pioneered new ventures such as Novo Need, the Home for the Aged in 1975, and the Consumer Actions Forum in 1973. I would like to go to my next slide where the picture shows Renuka Rai among the pioneers of women movement. She had written quite a number of books. My slide number 17, her autobiography, my reminiscences. The other books are Women in Mines, Women in Plantations, Legal Disabilities of Women, and Family Planning. She received many awards. In 1988, she received the Padma Bhushan from President of India. In the same year, she was awarded the Citizens Committee Award of Kolkata. In 1989, she received Nehru Fellow from Nehru Children's Museum. In 1991, she won the award for pioneering the consumer movement in Eastern India, presented by the Social Legal Aid Research and Training Center. In 1992, she received the Indian Parliamentary Group Award. In the same year, she was given Mahila Shiromani Award, which was presented by Mother Teresa. In 1997, she received Golden Jubilee and Indian Parliamentary Group Award. My next slide. In her words, open quote, women in this country have striven for their rights, for equality of status, for justice and fair play, and most of all, to be able to take their part in responsible work in the service of their country. The social backwardness of women has been sought to be exploited in the same manner as backwardness of so many sections in this country by those who wanted to deny the country its freedom. Close quotes. I must mention here that it is very, very difficult to speak after such eminent speakers like Dr. Sarkar and Dr. Chaudhary Ray. Please forgive my lapses. Cordial to all, and hardworking Renuka Rai keeps on inspiring us with a vision for transforming society. Thank you for a patient hearing. Namaskar.
Thank you so much, Indrani. It was amazing. It was such a professional presentation. I don't know why you doubted that. It was so good. It was amazing.
Very nice, very impressive.
Such new
and very effective also, Indrani. Very well spoken.
Information about AIWC also. Thank you so much. Very well researched also. So I think all the speakers we have to thank for being here. Now we have one recording.
You can show the film.
Yeah, in fact,
Professor
Sheilaji, Dr. Renu is sending the film to you, Sheilaji, because their office is getting closed.
It is already with Yutika. Yutika is showing.
Yeah. No, I know the LIC film I don't have. I
Not
have
LIC film. You show the film
recording.
of Shinoy.
Anuradha Jinoy.
5 minutes.
Yeah. 5-6 minutes or something. Yeah, I am showing that. So our next speaker is Mrs.
You.
Hello.
You.
Of course. Yeah, I'm there. She's the granddaughter-in-law, Professor Anuradha Shinoy of Srimati Hennah Sen. She's going to speak about her memoirs of Mrs. Hennah Sen, and that's so interesting.
She was to come. She was to come here, join us, but she could not as she is unwell. So she has recorded the film and sent.
Just showing. Yeah, I hope you can see the film.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we can see.
Yeah. And she is not just the granddaughter-in-law, she's also the former Dean, International Studies at JNU and adjunct professor at the Global Jindal University in New Delhi. We are grateful to Professor Shinoy, and I'm playing the message.
Mrs. Sheila Kakade, President of the All India Women's Conference, Dr. Renu Malviya, Dr. Sarkar, and friends. I'm deeply privileged and honored to be here at the AIWC to speak in memory of Hennah Sen and Renuka Rai. Today, I will briefly speak on Hennah Sen, and I do that because of the privilege I've had of being part of her family, even though she had passed away before I became the granddaughter-in-law of this household. My husband, Kamal Mitra Jinoy, and my brother-in-law, Dilip Jinoy, are her two grandsons. I'm speaking about Hennah Sen on the basis of what I know about her and her writings and her work, and I will make 5 brief points. Number 1 was Hennah Sen's commitment to the idea of India, which was secular, democratic, equitable, progressive, nationalist, in which women had an equal role to play and equality under the Constitution and for citizenship rights. Consider, for example, her views on the Indian women's movement, in which she wrote in her paper in 1949. Hennah Sen argued that the Indian women's movement was distinct from that of the Western one, as this movement could not be realized in isolation and could not be considered in isolation and was linked to social structures in India, and therefore their alignment with progressive movements that labored for the removal of injustice and the recognition of inherent human rights. The women's role in India on the Indian freedom movement entitled them, Hennah Sen always said, to equality in the Constitution and for women entering all fields and all kinds of work, and this was especially because of the role of the AIWC. Hennah Sen commented on the progressive aspects of the Hindu Code Bill and all other legislation during her period, and especially when she was president of the AIWC. And she also spoke on the importance of women's organizations to contest conservatism and social barriers to women's equality. Second were Hennah Sen's ideas, which were actionable. And this was evident in her everyday work and her life. In her role as director of the Lady Irwin College and as president of the AIWC, at the same time, these ideas came alive in her work. For example, Hennah Sen wrote and said very often that the Lady Irwin College remains the most concrete gift of the AIWC to educational advancement. The AIWC had always decried war and conflict and sectarianism and asked that public opinion be in favor of non-violence and peace. She pleaded that priority be given to women's education and women be equally present in all schemes of the government, especially in educational reconstruction. Third, Hennah Sen linked progressive causes of the AIWC with the Lady Irwin College. And I'll give you two examples. One, when millions of women voters were left out of the electoral rolls in 1951, Hennah Sen, along with Rameshwari Nehru and others in LIC outside, organized protest meetings, some of which were held in Lady Irwin College, and with AIWC members for restoration of these rights and, importantly, for women's citizenship. And many of the women who had been left out had to be included. Similarly, when Delhi University Executive Council passed a resolution in 1951, which disallowed married women from employment, Hennah Sen approached the government of India with her colleagues to have this resolution annulled. And they put enough pressure, and finally the government wrote a letter to Delhi University annulling this Executive Council resolution. Fourth, Hennah Sen was an engaged academic and engaged policymaker, meaning that she was always an activist at heart. And she said, and I quote, that for the AIWC, they realize that the days of agitation are not over. Far from it, and women cannot rest their oars as long as any vestige of discrimination exists. This was part of her presidential address to the AIWC in 1951. Lastly and fifthly, her ideas, I believe, are more relevant today than they even were at her period, because currently we have a ruling regime which is seeking to overturn the ideas of India that we inherited from the national movement. And just to conclude, I will just cite two sentences from her speech in which she says, and I quote, "The great work of the conference, that is the AIWC, is not over. The aims of the conference have been consistently broad-based. The conference must always serve as a channel through which women's concerted endeavor will be directed against injustice and outmoded beliefs." Thank you very much.
So that was the
Yes,
recording.
that was good.
Yes. Now Dr. Renu is going to manage the video.
Yeah,
Video.
I'm trying.
Share.
I'll just
Yes.
be putting it
Yeah,
on.
yeah. Yes, please.
यहाँ से नहीं करना था, सॉरी, गलत करा। यहाँ से बोला था मैंने।
इसमें करिए ना, यहाँ से शेयर होता है।
नहीं तो यहाँ से ऑन कर दो ना इसको।
There is a sharing icon.
Yes, you can share the screen.
At the bottom, Renuji?
Yeah.
At the bottom of the screen.
Yeah, bottom is where video कहाँ पर है?
Share.
Desktop. हाँ ये.
कहाँ पर है बताओ?
नीचे है।
ये.
और फिर वो विंडो खोल लीजिए तो वो दिखेगा उसमें।
विंडो खोल के ना?
ये वाला अरे ये वाला मैम। हाँ।
अब क्या करें?
इसको
अब शेयर
Share.
आया
You
आपने पूछा
नहीं आया. आ गया.
इट्स देयर
आ क्यों
आ
आ
गया
गया.
आप उसको प्ले कर दीजिए. साउंड नहीं आ रहा.
साउंड नहीं आ रहा.
हाँ साउंड पहले भी हुआ था ऐसा कुछ किया था आपने साउंड हट गया हटा दिया.
Was the video coming?
Yes, video we could see.
It was
Okay, we'll just do it
But-
again.
sound first.
One second, we're just doing it again.
we have to stop that at 7 minutes, I believe.
Yeah, it's there.
हो जाए.
आवाज नहीं आ रहा. चल नहीं आवाज नहीं आ रहा.
नहीं आवाज नहीं आ रही है.
साउंड नहीं आ रहा रेणु जी.
साउंड नहीं आ रहा है. हेलो हाँ
नहीं
साउंड
नहीं.
आएंगे अभी. अभी आ रहा हूँ.
नहीं.
हाँ इट इज ट्राइंग हल्का लेकिन अभी तेज नहीं है. सुनाई नहीं दे रहा.
बढ़ा दीजिए साउंड.
There is no sound?
Yeah.
No.
There is
No
no
sound.
sound?
No sound.
Do you want me to try again?
Yeah, why not?
Okay, please just give us 2 minutes.
Yes, yes, yes.
बंद करो साउंड नहीं आ रही है. बंद कर दो दूसरे करना पड़ेगा. मेरे से होता तो वहां से कर दो. मेरे वाले से कर दो.
I think.
तो प्रिया आपके पास नहीं है फिल्म?
नहीं मेरे पास नहीं है.
If anyone else has, it will be better because
it's actually a long film out of which we are going to see only 5 minutes or maybe 3 minutes.
Okay, but
because this is on the college, Lady Haven College.
I have heard about it. I haven't seen it.
Coming. Is it sharing now?
Yes.
Yeah, we can see it, but there is no sound.
Sound, yeah.
That day also same thing happened.
Yeah. लेकिन उस दिन ठीक कर दिया था इन्होंने वो अनुपा जी थे.
Has it stopped sharing now?
Yeah, yes. No sharing now.
Okay, let me just try one last time.
Yeah. वो उन्होंने बताया था कोई लास्ट ओल्ड सिस्टम है ना जिसमें ये रिकॉर्डेड है. Some old technology. Yeah.
मैम यहाँ क्या चला लीजिए. इसमें चला लीजिए. इसका आवाज ही नहीं आ रहा. नहीं आ रहा.
Sheila ji, is it worth seeing without the sound?
I think let's see it without the sound, and the video can be shared. Probably, shall we do that?
You can show it and you can keep it in the library. Yutika?
Yeah.
You can keep it in the library and then we can see it later on. But now.
Who took this challenge and came forward to give this thought.
Now we can hear it.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
Good.
Yes, it is coming.
थोड़ा शुरू से. No.
When the slide starts, the sound comes. No? You can read that. No?
But खत्म हो गया. चलो ठीक
No,
है.
it started.
Vidya ki seva, no?
गांधी जी से मिला था ना मोटो लोगो.
तालीम रख दिया सामान.
आवाज नहीं आ रहा। I'm in a meeting, Marty. मैं आपको कॉल करती हूँ। बल्ले मैं आपको बताती हूँ।
I think this should be sufficient.
I think so, because now we are coming to the new era.
Yeah. We wanted to know.
We can now stop.
Yeah, we can stop it now.
Yes, we can now stop.
And do send us the video.
Yeah.
Definitely, we will do that.
Yeah.
We'll keep it in the library and people can see this.
Yeah,
sure.
Thank you so much. So we end the program and time for the formal vote of thanks. I would invite our Joint Secretary Aiwc, Mrs. Supriya Bhalirao, for the formal vote of thanks to all the dignitaries and speakers present today. And as you know, Supriya has been designing these invites, which are again a collector's item in themselves. So over to you, Supriya. Over to you.
Thank you, Yutika, for your kind words. Good evening to all. This is Supriya Bhalirao, delivering the formal vote of thanks for this webinar. Firstly, I thank Mrs. Sheila Kakre, our president, for conceptualizing this wonderful idea of presenting our past presidents. Today, we have celebrated our 22nd and 23rd presidents in the 15th session. I thank Mrs. Kuljit Kaur, our Secretary General, and Mrs. Hennah Begum, our Treasurer, for their constant support and involvement with their hearts in it. Now I will thank our guest speakers. Firstly, the Director of Lady Aiwc College, Delhi University, Dr. Anupa Sidhu, for taking time out and then putting in the effort in giving an excellent presentation on their first directress, that is our 22nd President, Mrs. Hennah Sen. Also for screening that wonderful film, actually, which we could not hear though, but I'm sure it's going to be preserved in our library and we would be able to see it. I thank Dr. Renu Malaviya, Senior Professor, now I can say the Professor of Lady Aiwc College, for taking deep interest and collecting and presenting the maximum possible information on our past President, Mrs. Hennah Sen. Thank you, Dr. Renu and Dr. Sidhu. I thank the granddaughter-in-law of Mrs. Hennah Sen, Professor Anuradha Chinoy, for sending us that video despite of her ill health, which has given us a glimpse of her personal life. I'm so happy about it. I now thank the speakers who spoke on our 23rd President, Mrs. Renuka Rai. Firstly, Dr. Malavika Sarkar, Vice Chancellor of Ashoka University, for agreeing to speak at this webinar. And it was lovely that you shared some first-hand experiences of our President, Mrs. Renuka Rai. It was an interesting talk, and I thank you once again very much, Dr. Malavika, ma'am. I thank Dr. Mamta Chaudhary Rai, Vice Chairman of West Bengal State Council of Higher Education, for her amazing presentation and an elaborate overview of Mrs. Renuka Rai's political career as well as social service. I would also like to thank our own sisters from AIWC, Dr. Smita Pallit, SCM, Standing Committee Member and Secretary of Kolkata Branch, who presented on Mrs. Hennah Sen, and Mrs. Indrani Sen Gupta, Member in charge of Art and Culture, who presented on Mrs. Renuka Rai. Their presentations were superb, giving us the detailed information on the lives of our beloved presidents. I thank Mrs. Chandraprabha Pandey for following up with Lady Aiwc College. And I also thank Dr. Manjula Ghosh for arranging the excellent speakers to speak on Mrs. Renuka Rai. I now thank our patrons, Mrs. Beena Jain and Mrs. Veena Kohli, for being present at today's webinar, which is really a mark of encouragement for this series. Thank you very much, both ma'ams. I thank all the vice presidents present here and also thank the zonal organizers and all members in charge for attending this session. I thank all the guests and all of you to be here. Without you, this session is not complete. Last and not the least, our Dr. Yutika, who's also a professor of history and our member in charge, MCM Library, for being a great host. Thank you, Yutika, and all the participants.
And I thank our librarians, Ranjana and Sujata.
Are they here with us? Are they here with us today?
They are with us.
And just to inform everyone, they do the work in advance. They send it to everyone.
Yes, because I also keep them.
Yes. As per your directives,
Chandraprabhaji, wonderful. Thank you so much for giving us such wonderful speakers. Chandraprabhaji?
It is, yes, thank you. But
Thank
you
you
are
very much.
main person, who does it all, And it was really very nice, but we should have one president at one time. Because those people didn't have time actually, how they rushed. Dr. Sidhu just rushed through her words, Same with Renu. They had such good presentations. For such, both Renuka ji and Hennah Sen were great presidents and
great
they're
people.
multi-dimensional. So for such people, Sheila ji, I will request that you should have one webinar for one president.
Yes, I will
the next
about this.
I would, ma'am, I would like to mention the name of Srimati Manjula Ghosh. She took immense interest, right?
Yeah. And Indrani ji and
Indrani ji
Dr.
also.
Palit's,
Hi, Indrani ji also.
Indrani ji and Dr. Palit's speech were very good actually.
Very nice.
Very nice.
Very well.
Yes, very nice presentation.
Very nice presentation.
Very nice.
Can I say something, Mamta ji? When these two names came, Renuka Ray and Hennah Sen, I called Manjuladi only first.
Nice meeting you all, ma'ams, and I really appreciate your roles in upholding the great ladies, right? For us.
Yes. I think Manjula ji is there in us, and then she can open a video.
Manjula ji, are you there?
Apology for not mentioning Manjula ji's name. Actually, she inspired me so much, and my seniors of the Calcutta branch, they have also inspired me so much. I'm very
it was
sorry
very
that
good.
I didn't
Just
mention.
4 months ago, when I called up Manjula Di, she said that Smita is unwell. I said there are 3-4 months there to do the work. That till then she will be fine.
GT, we are still on YouTube. Can we stop that and then talk?
Yes. Thank you so much, ma'am. Right. Nice meeting you.
Thank you, everyone. Next seminar, next webinar would be on our 23rd president. Sorry, 24th president.
24th on the 30th.
24th president, Srimati Lakshmi Menon. On 30th November?
30th November.
Oh, yeah, very good.
That is her death anniversary.
Okay. So, thank you, everyone.
Looking forward.
Mamta Di is still there, Supriya?
Yes, please.
Very nice, guys.
Yeah. Thank you, Professor Mamtaji. It's very nice.
Very nice meeting you all. Nice.
Okay, I am closing the meeting now. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Yutika and Supriya, this is a wonderful